And the first one is the following: recognizing and organizing our motives. Applying the idea of the golden circle to education advocacy does not mean that we have to spend most of our time looking for the one purpose that represents our deepest and noblest motive. That's important, but that is not the only focus. Instead, we acknowledge that we as human beings, our choices and actions are driven by many different motives, and we are often not fully conscious of what they are. We have many whys. In addition, our different motives can undergo changes over time because new insights come from our life experiences. We respond to changing situations. Some motives may become stronger and more important. Others may weaken, wane, and even wither away. New motives may emerge and come to the fore. Such is our life as human beings. What is important, every motive, as the word says, moves us, drives us, energizes us to do what we want to do. Now, in this learning activity, we seek to recognize what these different motives can be so that we can organize them and harness them for effective and sustained action. We can cluster the different motives that drive us to engage in education advocacy using the three keywords and generative themes: education, advocacy, and citizenship. Let's start with education. Ask ourselves, what personal educational experiences or observations drive you to advocate for changes in our system of education? For example, your own experience as a learner, as a student, or a teacher, or stories you have heard about how difficult it is for people who want to learn to actually learn in the existing education system. That's one. Secondly, what specific education issues, policies, programs, governance do you want to change through advocacy? Especially distance learning. What about project-based assessment? So many issues are possible. The question is, what motivates you? What interests you among these education issues? And thirdly, what ideas do you have on improving education, which you have learned from various sources and which you want to advocate? You don't have to answer all of this. The question is, what motivates you that is related to education? Your experience, your complaints, your observations, or ideas on how to improve the education system. So that's one set of motives. The second set of motives is on advocacy. Again, do you have personal experiences, positive or negative, in advocating any issue, especially to public authority, to government, which you want to use in education advocacy? There are some advocates who did not go to education advocacy immediately, but started with other issues, maybe on children, maybe on indigenous people. But the thing there is, what is their experience? Were they frustrated? Did they have some success? So therefore, they are motivated to do advocacy. Secondly, what observations do you have about other advocates and their advocacy activities, whether they do it in rallies, negotiations, writing to the newspaper, speaking over radio, posting on Facebook? What observations do you have about other advocates and their advocacy activities that you might want to use in your own advocacy? Thirdly, do you ever feel frustrated at the silence of your fellow citizens? And do you feel that your voice can make a difference? It's important that your personal individual voice is heard. But of course, you would want that you are not alone, that there are others. So is that what motivates you now to be an advocate, no? Because you want to reach out to others or because others have influenced you. That's the second set of motives. First on education, second on advocacy. And thirdly, on citizenship. Do you believe that as a citizen, you have the right, but also the responsibility to influence government's policies and programs? Or would you rather just do what you can as an individual to improve the situation? At least you control that. But since the problems are huge, don't you see the need to influence other fellow citizens to act together to bring about needed changes? And finally, what are your own experiences and ideas about influencing public opinion and public policy that you want to pursue? So whether it's in education, advocacy, or citizenship, what are the kinds of motives that drive you, that energize you, that make you want to pursue education advocacy? You are the one who can best identify what your different motives really are. And you are the best person to judge in what way these motives can drive you to engage in education advocacy. But in addition, please exchange and compare with fellow learners your different motives and explore how you can help each other further strengthen them. In the following exercise, we ask you to make your baseline map of motives. From time to time, refer to this baseline map to track your motivations as an education advocate, where they rise, where they fall. So the exercise gives you a map of personal motives for engaging in education advocacy as a citizen. Use this framework to identify what you think are the different motives that currently drive you to engage in education advocacy as a citizen. They can be your experiences and observations, ideas, criticisms, and aspirations about education, advocacy, citizenship, and possibly other fields. So just write down one after the other what are the motives in the field of education, in advocacy, in citizenship, and others. And after you have written this down, ask yourself, is it now clearer to you what your different motives are for engaging in education advocacy? Remember, the more the better, because there are more reasons for you to continue. And yet, among these many motives, what do you feel or think at this point is the strongest as of now? Is it frustration? Is it optimism? Is it the fact that you have friends who are also into that? Is it an experience of some success? Whatever the motives, what are the strongest as of now? Thirdly, what motives do you need and want to further strengthen? Like maybe you want to develop your profile as a knowledgeable education advocate. That is a legitimate motive. You want to be known in the field of education. So you want to strengthen that, meaning you have to study, you have to link with other advocates. And finally, what steps will you take to make this happen? Let me reiterate, at this point, no motive is wrong. Whatever your motives, write them down. What's important is, do they drive you rather than, let's say, discourage you from engaging in education advocacy? And it is only a baseline, meaning from time to time, you will review this and find out, has anything changed? Have new motives been added? Have some motives weakened? That is the first learning activity. And I like to repeat, learning in this course is not just listening and watching. We want you to do something, an exercise whose main beneficiary is not us or INET or INET Academy. The main beneficiary is you, because what is more important is you reflect and examine, right now, what drives you, what motivates you to be an education advocate. We'll now proceed to the second learning activity. If we ask initially your why, your motive, in this second learning activity, we will be asking the why, not of you personally, but of ENET Philippines that is sponsoring this course, through ENET Academy.